Hey everyone, welcome to another Coturnix Corner Live. This is going to be a special live today. Joining us is Brian from Castle Hives. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome. How are you?
And doing great over here, man. I appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. We've had a lot of people requesting a live stream about bees, and actually the last couple of lives I did, I kind of took a consensus on how many people wanted it. And you would not believe everybody that was in the group said, yeah, do the live stream. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we're looking forward to it. Let's see, where am I at here? For those of you who don't know, Brian runs a channel and a business called Castle Hives, and you are out of Northeast Ohio, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I am about an hour south of Cleveland. Okay. So, but an easy way to kind of pinpoint where I'm at in Ohio, I tell people draw a line from Cleveland down to Pittsburgh, and I'm right in the middle.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So it takes me an hour to get to Cleveland, hour to get to Pittsburgh.
Cool. All right, and Brian also is part of a live stream that they do on bees, and that is, what's the name of the stream team? I believe it is.
Yeah. So the three of us, there's three channels. It's Greg Burns with Nature's Image Farm. There's Bruce Jenny of Bruce's Bees. And then there's myself. We do live streams. We rotate on each other's channels. It's every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we've been doing them now. December was 3 years.
Really?
So, yeah, nice. We've been doing them a little while. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let me real quick give a shout out to our sponsors, Gopher Ridge Quail and Hatching Time. Both these sponsors donate stuff to give away during the live stream. HP Murray over at Gopher Ridge gives us a 30 count of hatching eggs to give away, and then Hatching Time gives a $50 gift certificate from Hatching Time to use on their website. So,
wow,
big shout out to them guys. We will be doing a couple giveaways tonight, the hatching eggs and the gift certificate. And when we're getting ready to draw a winner on that, I'll let you guys know, and you can comment. Brian, I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
When you do the drawing here through StreamYard,
yep,
I noticed like if people start doing the hashtag early on, by the time we get to the end of the show and do the drawing, there's only a handful of people that are listed in there. Is that an issue with StreamYard, or do you have to do it, within a certain amount of time, or what?
No, typically, as long as you're using the StreamYard giveaway tool, it should be fine. Now, it only allows one entry per person.
Okay.
So that might be why also, and then if they drop off, that might be another issue there.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an incentive in that if you're doing a giveaway,
right,
it's an incentive. I tell everybody, you got to stick around.
Sure.
So,
yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, we'll be doing that. I'm going to announce that a little bit later on in the stream tonight, and then we'll do the drawing towards the end of the show. What we got going on for next week? Next week, Sunday and Tuesday, Maury Straubel from West Michigan Quail is going to be joining us. So mark that on your calendars. He's actually going to be joining us live from Florida. They're actually coming down here and for a vacation.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to do a live stream right from Florida.
Awesome.
I think that's it. The only other thing I want to say is if you guys have any questions for Brian, if you would type the letter Q in front of your questions, that'll just make it a lot easier for me to find it over there in the chat. So Brian, if you want to, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and let me know when you want to bring up the slideshow, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, for those that do not know me, I am just a hobbyist beekeeper. I started out actually Earth Day of 2017. So today, I guess today is Earth Day also.
Yeah.
But 2017, I started out. My very first hive that I got, and the hive is that's the wooden hive setup. Colony is the bees. So my mom had reached out to me, and she told me that she wanted to get a Flowhive, she'd like to get a Flowhive for Christmas. And I thought, you want to get what? I had no clue. I didn't know what a Flowhive was. I didn't know a single thing about bees. So I got looking into it, and I called up my brother and I said, Mom wants to get a Flowhive and get bees. And he said, what? So the more than I got looking into it, everybody said if you're going to start, it's best to start with 2 colonies. So I thought, well, if she gets one, I'll get one also. So we started out with packages, and we installed them on Earth Day 2017. Since then, and this kind of fast forwards a little bit, but she doesn't go down with the bees anymore. She's developed a sensitivity. So I more or less just manage everything with the bees. I see Hannah say, my mom wanted to get a Flowhive. We actually have some pictures that if you're curious if a Flowhive works, there's pictures that we have. So, but I've just kind of continued through the years. Now, I've run anywhere between a handful of colonies. I've got 3 right now. I plan on getting up to 20 this year. That's my goal for this year. But I kind of stay. I hate saying that I'm a hobbyist beekeeper, because some people, they think of you when you say, well, you're a hobbyist beekeeper, and that, well, you might not take it seriously, and it's just kind of this little side thing that every once in a while you tinker with. So for me anymore, I like to say I'm a small scale beekeeper. And I say that because in the 3 kind of, I guess, levels of beekeepers, a lot of people say there's a hobbyist, and then there's a sideliner beekeeper where they earn a little bit of income from beekeeping, and then there's the commercial guys. I don't ever want to go to a sideliner level or a commercial level. Me staying in the hobbyist realm or small scale, I still like to enjoy time with the bees. When I walk out, there's times where I go out there and I want to sit down and just watch them. If I was doing it for, a job, you don't have that luxury just because time is a factor. So, that's why I stay kind of grounded where I'm at. I do, and I have in the last few years, just because of what I've learned through the years, and I've kind of adapted, or, well, yeah, I guess I've adapted my beekeeping skills. A couple years back, I had like 500 pounds honey, then I had 600 the next year. So I'm getting a significant, amount of honey. So I had to start doing markets. And the markets have been fantastic, just because it's a way that I can sell my honey. Um, Everybody, they always ask, and Terry, I even have little, like, tabletop, little posters, banners that are pictures of me with the bees. And I have people all the time, they say, do you do the bees? And I'm like, well, that's me right there. And they're like, well, yeah, but you could Photoshop that. And I'm like, it's me. But that's kind of me. I like to stay in that hobbyist or small scale realm. I can't ever see myself getting above around 20 to 25 colonies, just because getting, once you go into the 20 realm, it becomes a little bit more challenging. And there's
more work.
It's more work. And I've learned through my years that, and I actually talk about this when I go out. I was just recently at a club, and I did a little talk. And one of the points that I brought up there was standardizing across, your practice, standardizing throughout your apiary. And what I mean by that is utilizing the same equipment. So if you're going to use Langstroth hives, and that's the typical, for those that aren't familiar with hive bodies, the typical hive setup, like you see where it's the white boxes that people paint and they stack up, those are Langstroth hives. They've been around for many, many years. As far as availability of equipment, Langstroth equipment is probably the most readily available. You could go to any store and typically they say, yep, they've got Langstroth equipment. Now there's other hive setups out there, but the Langstroth is just, it's more readily available. What I do also is when I say standardize, I utilize the same size. So with Langstroth hives, they've got little nukes, little 5 frames, setups. They've got 7 frame, 8 frame, 10 frame. So there's all kind of different sizes. When I first started, I'm a gadget guy. So, I do 3D printing and all kind of other stuff. I had 7 frame setups, 8 frame setups, 10 frame setups. I had poly hives that are made out of like it's a polystyrene. I've got Apiary that they're an injection molded plastic hive. I had a horizontal hive. I've got my Langstroth. So I had everything and anything. And basically what I did by doing that is I complicated my entire operation. And when I would go over and do inspections, I would literally have to take a little notepad, and even, if I had 10 or 12 hives, and I'd have to write down how many 7 frame, how many 8 frame, how many 10 frame, just to be able to determine what supplies to take out.
So there's my notes from today.
Yeah. So when I got looking at everything, time for me is always an issue. I still work full time. I see that's a great question there, Muriel. I'll get to that in a second. That is a fantastic question. But time being a factor, because I still work full time, I'm kind of limited. I can't go every day and spend 1, 2, 3 hours with the bees. They're not at my property. They're at my mom's. It's about 20 minutes away. So whenever I go, it's, I finish up work and then I got to hop in the car, drive over, do stuff. So I tend to not drive over every day. Prior to this year, I had one day, it was on Saturdays, I would typically go over and work the bees. So having everything somewhat complicated where I had so many different styles of hives, it just added so much time. So I got to the point about 2 or so years ago, almost 3 years ago now, where I looked at basically my entire operation and I thought, I can do things better. What can I do to shave off time in the process? So first thing I did was I looked out in my yard and I'm like, this is just a disaster. I've got so many different types of hives that, I would spend a half an hour just taking notes for what I need. So I eliminated that. I went to all 10 frame equipment. Now, for those that are starting out, you'll ask, well, what's the difference between 8 frames and 10 frames? It's 2 frames, but you also add weight. So if you're one that, if you get a sore back, 10 frames are going to be an issue. I went with 10 frame, and I'll talk more about why in a little bit, but I went to 10 frame just because of a style of beekeeping that I'm kind of going to. So everything throughout my entire yard now, they're all 10 frame boxes. So if I go over and I need to, let's say it's time where I need to add on the honey boxes, the honey supers, I don't have to look in my building for, okay, where are 10 frame, where's 8 frame? I literally just grab boxes. So it takes the thought out of everything. Yep. I also, when I went to 10 frames, so typically up here, and for those that aren't familiar with beekeeping, you'll hear some folks say deeps, and then you'll hear like medium supers. A deep, well, it's a larger box. I should know all the numbers off the top of my head, but I don't. But it's a little bit of a thicker box. A medium is, well, it's a little bit of a thinner box. You'd think I would know the numbers off the top of my head. I'm a horrible beekeeper. But for the style that I do, I wanted to go to a single brood management. Now, when I very first learned up here in Northeast Ohio, we get the winters, okay, and everybody said you have to keep 2 deep boxes and have 110 pounds of honey for the bees to get through the winter. Well, that I've proven that to be false. You don't need 2 deeps. The issue with 2 deeps is, yes, they're heavy. It's heavy because if you're going to do a very thorough inspection of the colony, where you're lifting up deep boxes that they weigh. I mean, if you're lifting a 10 frame box that it's packed out, you're lifting 60, 70 pounds easy. Could be more than that. And if you're one that, well, you want to watch your back so that, you're not taking Motrin after the inspection, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to lift these boxes anymore. So with single brood that I've kind of gone to, you keep the queen in 1 deep box. So if you're doing an inspection, you know exactly which box that the queen is in.
Yep.
So I've kind of made things in my yard. I've standardized it where I use the same style feeders, the same style boxes. With single brood, I know exactly where the queen is. So if I need to do an inspection, I know exactly where she's at, so I could check the brood pattern. I can check and see if they're getting close to swarming. You know where everything is located at. That has been a huge time saver, believe it or not, the single brood. It's not for everyone, just because with single brood, because your queen, I use queen excluders, and it's either a plastic or a metal piece that goes on, and because your queen is a little bit fatter, she can't fit through it. Only the worker bees can go through it. So because she can't go to a different box, you have to stay on top of them, because if she fills out that box and can't lay anymore, well, it's going to get them into that urge where they're saying, hey, we need to swarm here. So you're going to pack them in so much that they will swarm. So with single brood management, you do have to watch them a little closer. Last year, I didn't have any problems. Last year, I think I only lost 1 or 2 swarms. So it really wasn't, that much of an issue. But, that's what I've kind of done in the last few years is I've looked at everything, and I wanted to standardize things so that I could spend less time writing on a notepad, and I could spend more time in the bees, more time sitting in the chair enjoying the bees. Now, as far as Muriel's question, is smaller better for a new beekeeper? It just all depends. Now, Muriel, I don't know where you're located at, as far as, if you're in the US, if you're outside of the US. It just really, as far as 8 frame or 10 frame, it just depends on your style. That's all.
Yeah, I do 5 frames.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, there's those that do 5 frames, and you'll hear some people say they do 5/5.
That's what I do.
A 5-frame box with a 5-frame box stacked on top of it.
Yep.
So it really, it just all depends on your style. Now, what I typically would suggest is don't start real small, like 5-frame at first, just because
they grow out so fast.
Exactly. They're going to draw out so fast, and if you don't check them enough, well, they could get to swarming. So I would start with at least, you're in Northern Ohio, 40 minutes south of Cleveland. Muriel, where are you at? I live in Muriel. I live in Trumbull County, so Youngstown, Warren area. So 40 minutes south. So are you over by Akron or somewhere there? That is hilarious. Akron.
Small world.
Muriel, my daughter lives in Cuyahoga Falls. This is such a.
She says Akron.
Yeah, that is. I'm 40 minutes away. But I would probably start out 8-frame, just because that gives you a little bit more room. I would probably start out with 2 deeps just so that you have that extra room, because when you start, you don't want to complicate things. You want to have enough space so that you can learn those colonies, so that you can watch them. You basically are going to watch that colony develop. You don't want to complicate it and create yourself more work. So, I would start at least 8 frame. Even if you have no problem lifting 10 frame, 10 frames the largest that set aside from the horizontal hives, but
Right.
10 frame boxes, they're the largest. If you have no problem lifting, I would do that. And Muriel, just a little side note also, if you're looking for an excellent store, look up Blue Sky Bee Supply. They're in Ravenna. You've got to only be.
I've ordered from them.
I live 25 minutes from Blue Sky.
Nice.
So yeah. If I'm ever in a pinch and I need to get something like right today,
Sure.
I literally go online and order it, and I say dockside pickup. And by the time I drive over, I'll get an email saying your order is ready for pickup.
Ready. Nice.
So yeah, but Muriel, look up Blue Sky Bee Supply. They're a fantastic store. Mel, one of the owners, she's always at the desk. She's fantastic. She'll spend more than enough time with you. So
you wanna go ahead and run our slideshow real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
I want everybody to see kind of what you're talking. You're talking about your yard and everything. I kind of want them to see.
Yep.
But
now,
go ahead, take it over, Brian.
So this picture here is my yard. Let's see here. This was probably, I think, 3 years ago. I've changed up a little bit since then because I've got some double deeps that are there, but I have changed that up. But what I do in my yard is every one of my colonies, they get their own hive stand. And the reason why I do that is if I want to work a colony from really any of the sides, I do that. If I want to start at the close end and work them side to side down, I do that. If I want to work them from the back, I can do that. So by having them on individual stands like that, it gives you that freedom that you can move around that colony. If you see something, and you want to shift, you can do so. If you have everything on those long hive stands, what a lot of people use, there is no going to the side, not unless you are at the very edge. And let me tell you, I don't care how, as far as age, how old you are. If you're bending over and you are lifting up frames and boxes for an hour, your back's going to let you know. But that there, so I was probably at, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I was probably at about 18 colonies in right there. I'm very similar to that look right now, other than what I've added to my yard is I've got landscaping fabric under each row just to control the weeds. Mowing was always bees either they either like it or they hate it.
Mine hate it.
I get every once in a while, I'll get a couple of them that when I'm mowing, I get, they tag me. It's the nature of the beast. When you're a beekeeper, you will get stung. So if you have any type of a sensitivity and you want to go into beekeeping, I would use some caution just because you will get stung.
I've got a friend down here that's highly allergic to bees, and he just wears a full suit every time and carries an EpiPen with him. And he's been doing it for several years, so
wow.
It's possible to do it, even if you are allergic.
Yeah. But that's my setup now. Now my front row, I've kind of spaced them out a little bit more so that I'm only going to have 6 colonies across the front. My back row, I'm going to have 9 in that row. And then I'm going to actually make a third row so that I put any additional behind that also. But that area where I do have all of those colonies, you can kind of see in the back portion of that picture, there's chain link fence around it. So on 2 of the sides, there's chain link. On the other 2 sides, there's 4-foot, it's like goat fencing. Where they're located at, my mom used to have goats. That area in there, it's like 100-foot by 100-foot square.
Nice.
It sat there for a couple years, and she had nothing in there. I would mow a little bit, and I got asking the one day when I started growing my colonies, I said, "What are you doing with that big old area over there?" And she said, "Nothing." I said, "How about I put the bees in there?" And she said, "Perfect." So as far as any like pests like raccoons, skunks, anything like that, there's fencing around everything there. So I've never had a problem. But yeah, that's my yard there. It's it's done well. I mean, it's like I said, it's fenced in. As far as weather, like the winds and things like that, uh, there's woods behind it. So, they're protected from the northern winds. Like where I'm at, you always have to think about the northern winds throughout the winter time. We get those like cold winds that come out of Canada, and across Lake Erie. So they're protected from that. And where they're at, they're kind of down a little bit and protected with trees. So I don't typically put up like windbreaks in the wintertime just because they're kind of in like a protected little hollow where they're located. So, yeah. And I also use on all of my colonies, I think you can see on some of them in there, I throw ratchet straps on them. And I do that just so that winds do not take any tops off. You'll see, and I've seen it a number of times where people will post on Facebook and that, and they'll say, "Hey, they got sideline winds or straight line winds, and their colonies got knocked over." I take the extra 5 minutes and go through my yard and make sure every colony has a ratchet strap, and then I never have to worry about any tops getting blown off. So just something that I've done. I've kind of adopted that practice since when I started. Just I I want to take that worry out. Let me see here. Carmine asks, Brian, I'm a hobbyist beak. Recently purchased insurance for beekeeping for honey sales, stings, and such. Rarely hear small scale beaks purchasing insurance. Yeah, I wish we could all band together. So I do not have insurance there. Now I do have my LLC, so I'm kind of protected a little bit there. When I do go to the markets and that, everything is all done through Castle Hives LLC. So you are a little bit protected that way. I do know they have some insurances. I'd never have really checked into it. Honey for me, honey is honey. I can't really see many individuals having like an allergic reaction to honey.
Right.
They know when they buy it. I don't really alter my honey. Yes, I do sell hot honey, so it's like pepper infused. But for the most part, honey is honey. So I usually don't worry about the insurance end of things. Muriel's also asking here, do you plan anything specific so the bees primarily populate that area for consistency in the taste of honey? So that's a fantastic question. Now, honeybees will fly out several miles. So they will go out 2 miles, some say 3, out in one direction. So you figure if from your point they fly out 2 miles and then the other way they go out 2 miles, you figure they're covering a 4 to almost 6 mile radius. If you plant things, odds that your bees will pollinate in your yard, it could happen, but probably not, just because bees tend to go out to forage. But what you would be doing, though, Muriel, is the native pollinators or other bees around, they'll pollinate. So it's not like if you do plant pollinators in your yard, if you do plant wildflower mix or anything like that, it wouldn't be, so to say, a waste, because there would be other native pollinators or other honeybees in the area that would benefit from that. And as far as taste, it all varies. Every year, the honey is different. It just depends on Mother Nature has a lot to play. What nectar is out there. And that's why, if anyone's ever looked at the different colors of honey, I know we've got a picture. Honey literally can, each frame that you extract, it could be a different color.
Mhm.
And that just has to deal with the floral sources of where the bees get the nectar. Now, typically earlier in the year, I'm sure everybody has seen like the wildflower honey, clover honey, things like that, and it's a lighter color. It's that typical sweet honey. That's early in the season. Later in the year, at least here, I know in Northeast Ohio, we tend to get like a little bit of a goldenrod flow. We get the asters, things like that. That honey tends to be dark. I've had goldenrod honey that is almost as dark as molasses, and it
Wow.
is very rich tasting, and that's what I love. When I get a little bit of a goldenrod honey, when I get that harvest, my wife always says, when she sees it, she's like, "You're not selling all that," because we like that rich tasting honey. But honey, it can, from one season to the next, and or from one year to the next, and then season to season, you will have different flavors. So if you're used to one specific flavor, it's hard to say, well, let me plant that, whatever that source was, let me plant that, because for the bees to go to that one spot, it's difficult to say. Good question, though. Good question.
Yeah.
What's the
Right.
next picture? What do you got here? Oh man.
There you go.
So now, for those that are going into beekeeping, or those that are new at beekeeping, that little teeny bug there, that little teeny, it is Varroa destructor. It is a destructor. What that does is that little teeny mite attaches to the body of a honeybee, and it feeds on the honeybee. Now, where the Varroa mites are a problem is they transmit viruses. So just like us, we get viruses and we get sick. Honeybees can get sick. There are, I think they're up to, the last number I saw is they're up to like 32 different viruses that they've identified that honeybees can get. It is just something else. But one of those viruses is deformed wing virus. And you'll be inspecting a colony, and you will see honeybees and their wings are kind of shriveled looking, and they cannot fly. So really, they will never live out that full life, because yes, they could go through some duties inside of the hive, but they'll never be able to forage, and they'll never really be able to, provide that end, so to say, work for the colony. But that is just a huge problem, the Varroa there. Now, with that box of bees that you see there, and that was one of my boxes of bees just loaded, the little teeny white strips that you see there, that is what is called Apivar, and that is one of the treatments that I use to treat my bees and kill the Varroa mites. Now, for those that are looking at beekeeping, there are those beekeepers that are, and there's a line in the sand. You're either on one side of it or you're on the other. You either treat your bees or you don't treat your bees. Me, I've gone the route of minimal treating, and it did not work out for me. I lost every one of my colonies.
Hmm.
So I decide to treat. I figure, well, I look at my bees sometimes, and some people say, well, they're not livestock, but I kind of treat them like they are in a way, because if you think of honeybees, think of them like quail. Okay. We take them out of their natural environment and we put them in these boxes, and we expect them to do everything that they were meant to do in nature, and we want them to make us honey. Well, because I took them out of their natural environment, I pretty much have that mindset that, well, I probably should do everything that I can just to help them out. Just like the quail. I mean, and I have, for those that don't know me, I have quail also. Um, it's just like the quail. I feed them. I give them a housing. I try and manage them so that they stay healthy. With the bees, last year we had a dearth. We had a very long dearth, and a dearth is a time where there's nothing out there really for them to forage on. We had a drought. So in that time period, what did I do is I fed them. I gave them sugar syrup like crazy, just because I thought, well, I've taken them out of their natural environment and put them in these boxes. So why don't I have some bit of animal husbandry and take care of them like I should? So, but that's just me. I know there's those that say, hey, leave them alone. Bees have survived for thousands of years without us. Leave them alone, But yes, they have survived thousands of years in their own environment. So, but yeah, that picture there, that's just one of my treatments. And that colony there, what you'll typically see on those large colonies is you'll see bees across all the frames. And believe it or not, when your bees are happy, you could take your hand and literally just kind of gently tap on them on the top of those frames, and they'll just move aside. And you could set your hand right on there, and they'll literally just walk all over your arm, your hand, and they really could care less what you're doing. So that colony there was that was a pretty decent colony. So what's the next picture you got? I'm excited. Oh,
yeah.
Look at this one.
I like this one.
Yeah. So this picture here was actually taken by a college student, kind of out by Muriel's direction. It was a student from Kent State University. She had reached out to me and was doing a photography project, and her and her dad came out and they spent an hour or so, and I went through some colonies, and this is one of the pictures that she took. But what we can see here is a lot of workers. So all of those bees on there, they are all workers. And one thing that I love about honeybees is all of the worker bees, they're all female. The drones that are the male bees, they do no work. And I so love that. I'm saying that not loud enough that my wife can hear me, but those bees, they're all workers. What you see in the center is actually pollen that they have packed into those cells. The other cells where you can see kind of like that sheen, that is fresh nectar. And what the bees will do is they will typically have frames like this. When they have their brood nest, they will have a frame where it's loaded out like this, and they'll have pollen that actually acts as their protein source. So they need that protein, just like quail. When you're raising up, the younger quail, you need a higher protein. So with this, you've got the pollen that is their protein right next to the brood nest where they're raising out the babies. And then you've got the nectar that, of course, the honey, that acts as their carbohydrates. But yeah, that is a fantastic picture right there. The bees, you can see them in there just packing in the pollen. They're working that nectar. They will, when bees do go out and bring back nectar, they'll pass it along. So the foragers that go out, they don't go out and come back, and they don't go all the way up into the colony and put the nectar in. They will pass it to one another. But when they do throw it in those cells, the bees will fan over it and they bring the moisture content down to what is acceptable for honey. Yeah, that is just a fantastic picture. So, how much honey do you leave in the hive to support the bees? From what I understand, you take some honey, um, you leave some for the colony also. Is there a percentage? So typically, Muriel, what I do is the honey that is in my lower box, I never touch that. My deep frames, where that's where my brood nest is, and that's okay. Uh, I never extract out of that box. Now, what I also do is the very next box that I have up, it's a medium. I never extract from that either. So I leave them a considerable amount of honey. I probably leave them, oh gosh, when those boxes are filled out, I've got to leave them 70 or 80 pounds of honey. I pretty much figure if I leave them extra, I would rather have them or leave them with enough food versus me going to a market and making extra dollars. That's just how I do it. Typically, though, you will see folks and they'll tell you, do not extract the frames that are down in your deep boxes just because, just kind of get that in your practice where that's for the bees. So that's just how I work. But yeah, that picture there, that is awesome. What's another picture, man? Oh, this is a fun one.
Norton man.
Bees are so mean right here that you see I was sitting in I was in Northern California and was out at a friend of mine, Uribe Honeybees. He's another content creator, the California beekeeper. I was out on a work trip and I was kind of close to him, so I went up and spent a day. And he is a queen breeder. And the day when I was there, he was going around picking queens to sell to customers. So I had, it was 90 whatever degrees that day. It was hot. You see from the landscaping, it was all brown. But I had shorts, t-shirt, and sitting down checking bees. That was a fun time. And in case anyone is curious, so the frame that we saw with the pollen and the nectar on it, to the image on the right, that is an actual egg. So you figure if you're holding up a frame and the cells are, I think the smallest, they're like 4.9, and then they go up to like 5.4. So that's about the size of the cells, millimeters. You figure that small little cell, that little teeny egg is in the middle of it. So it's very, very small. It resembles, and like you look at it, it resembles a small little teeny like grain of rice. If you're one that, well, you wear these, you will need these in order to see them. And then also, depending on the time of the day, just with the sunlight and all that stuff, the eggs are very hard to see. But, you'll have, there you go.
I use it all the time.
I've got a small little pocket flashlight that I use also. Yeah, but that's an egg, and the queens, somewhat to kind of these pictures go together because the queens, what they will do is they will lay one egg per cell. Now, there's times where, when it's a newer queen, they get a little sloppy and they kind of haven't all dialed it down. They haven't dialed in their process yet. Sometimes they'll lay two eggs. They kind of get spotty. But once they kind of get kicked into gear, then they'll lay one egg, and it's typically in the center of the cell. The queen, her abdomen is a little bit larger. So that's, with her abdomen being larger, she can fit her abdomen down into that cell and deposit that egg right in the middle. And it's just so cool to watch them literally, I've sat and held frames when I see a good queen and she's going around laying, and she'll go and examine the cells, make sure that they're clean, and then you'll see her back her rear right down into there, and literally it's just put it down. She's there for a couple seconds and she's gone. And the queens, they'll lay, I've seen some people say 1,500. I've seen some people say upwards of 2,000, but they literally lay that many eggs a day. So it's just amazing. I mean, you think when they're really ramped up in the summertime, I mean, you figure if they're laying 1,500 eggs a day, you look at the population as far as expanding, they get big really fast. So, yeah, that's a great picture. What else do you got for me? So this picture here, this is a Flowhive. So that is actually my mom's Flowhive, and I couldn't ever get it to work. So funny story.
I was just going to ask you that. How well do they work?
Funny thing about that thing, I couldn't get it to work. I waxed the frames. I did everything to kind of get the bees used to it. And my buddy Greg that does Nature's Image Farm, he does every other Saturday, he will have what he calls a learning yard. And it's for his customers that buy bees from him. He will let them come there on Saturdays, and he goes through hive inspections with them. So that way they can go there, they can inspect colonies right side by side with him. And if they have questions, they can ask. And then when they go home, it's not, they're not as nervous. They know what to expect. Well, I was talking to Greg and I said, just curious. I said, do you want to use my Flow Super? I said, I can't get the darn thing to work, so it's no loss. If you use it, it's no loss if it doesn't work. We took it down to his place, and all of the honey that you see there, that is out of the Flowhive. So the Flowhive is set up so that you have these frames, and there's a metal key that you insert in the back. And what it does is you have the cells, and when you turn the key, the cells shift so that the honey drains down to the bottom, and then it comes out of the spouts there in the back. Now, what I always recommend for people to do with the Flowhive is bottle them in different jars. Like, don't get a bucket and bottle them all in a bucket, because like you see there, all of those different colored honeys are from that one honey super. So that
really? Just on different frames, or?
Yep, different frames. Each frame will have a different picture, or not a different picture, but a different color, because that's related to the floral source that they were foraging on that day. Amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. There's a picture I know with me, and you can see all of the different, like across the hive, you can see all of the different, I think you've got that picture. You can see all of the different colors of the honey. It just is amazing. But the Flowhive, it does work. Right there is proof. The last 2 years, what Greg has done, just to kind of rub it in a little bit, he leaves that Flowhive until I can come down and see it extract. So, but yeah, nice. That is, that right there really, in a sense, is why I got into beekeeping, is that right there, that Flow Super. Right. So, very, very cool. Yeah. And they're, the Flowhives, I know some people look at them and they say, oh, they're a little pricey. Yes, they are a little bit more expensive than others, but if you go about things the standard way, you're going to have to get some type of extractor, or you're going to have to arrange it with someone else that has one, go to their place, take your frames over there and extract it. So there's a lot more money and a lot more work going the traditional way. With the Flowhive, you literally turn that key, let the honey drain out, and then you can turn it back and seal things up, and you're done.
Now is the Flowhive just basically a super, or can you actually raise brood in it?
That's all it is. It is just a super. Now they do sell a whole entire kit, and you get the deep boxes with the frames and everything. But in a sense, the Flowhive technology, so to say, is the super. That is it. So you could buy, 10 frame setup, 8 frame setup, whatever it is, and then just buy a Flow super to put on top of it. That right there, I tell you, Bruce has a fantastic question. How many hours a week are needed to keep bees? Are there times of the year it takes more or less? So the first question there, how many hours a week? It depends on the number of colonies. If you have, Bruce, if you start out and you have 2 colonies, I tell people give an hour, and I could go through and do an inspection in minutes, but that's with me. I know, specifically what I'm looking for. When you're a new beekeeper, what do you want to do when you have a colony of bees, when you have a beehive? You want to sit there, and when you pull up every frame, you're going to be looking at it, and you're going to spend, 5 minutes just looking at things on that one frame. So I tend to tell people give an hour, and that way it gives you a little bit of a buffer so that you can, you're not rushed. You can spend time with it and you can enjoy it, because as a new beekeeper, there is so much to learn. What I typically tell new people also, and I would have to get a list of the books, but there's plenty of books out there. Get books on honeybee biology. That's number one, so that you learn their developmental stages. And once you understand bees' developmental stages, everything else kind of gets easier. And you'd be amazed at how easy it gets. But Bruce, probably an hour. Now, if you have more than 2, if you get to 3 or 4 colonies, of course it's going to take more time. So I guess it just depends on number of colonies. Now, as far as is there a time of year where there's more time and then times of the year with less? The springtime, you'll typically have more time with the bees just because you're trying to prevent them from swarming. At least that's what I do. So I like to get in them at least once a week so that I can assess the colony, see what they show me, if they're showing any signs of swarming. That way I can manipulate them according to how I want. So springtime, I would say, is definitely a time when you spend a little more. Middle of the summer, there's times I've gone 2-3 weeks and I don't open up a colony. If they're kind of doing their thing, I just let them go. The fall, I tend to spend a little bit more time, just because in the fall, I want to make sure they're building up enough so that they have their winter stores. And then, Bruce, here in the wintertime, I don't touch them. When it's cold, I don't touch them. So there's times in the winter, I might not touch them for 3 months. So it just all depends. Like this winter here, we had cold for 4 or 5 months. So I literally did not crack my boxes open for probably 5 months.
Dang.
Yeah, it's something. So bees will choose a certain frame and stick with it, like chickens. Yeah. Yeah. Now bees typically, so how you'll typically see a colony set up is the brood nest, and that's where the queen typically is. That's where all of your young are located. They're typically in the middle. Okay. Your brood nest will typically be in the middle, and your edges will be honey stores. So, in the edges with those honey stores, it almost acts like insulation also. They've got like those nice thick bands of honey that help them insulate. So that is typically in the deep. I saw a thing in here also where you said, what do you mean by super? A super is typically, that could be a deep, it could be a medium. A super is just another word for a honey box. That's it. It's a box that you extract honey from. That's all. But typically probably 9% of the time when someone says a super, they're referring to a medium box that they pull honey from. Let's see.
Hannah's got a good question here.
Yeah. That's a great question. If you set up a box, will a colony move in? Now, this is the time. Now, I don't know, Hannah, where you're located at. This is the time of year for swarms. Now, they haven't quite started yet up here. I know down south you've probably already had swarms.
Yep. I'm going to bring up a video real quick. That's one of my swarm traps.
There you go. So, Hannah, that's a perfect video right there. If you set up a box, and what honeybees will do is when they are getting ready to swarm, you'll see little scout bees, and like you can see going in there, they will actually go into that box and they will look at the basic, the volume of that box, and they kind of look at it and they're like, is this big enough? If it fits, if it suits their needs, then those scouts will go back to the colony and they will tell the colony, hey, everybody, and they do some shakes and some dances. They'll tell them, hey, I found this spot. This is what it looks like. They might have other scouts go out and check it out, and they'll say, you know what? We got a bang up job. You know, they did a bang up job out here, found a great, home. And when they swarm, they will go to that location. Now, Hannah, what you could do if you do set up a swarm trap, if you know anyone that is a beekeeper, ask them for a frame of very old comb, brood comb, and it'll be very dark looking. It won't be that lighter colored wax, very dark comb, and you could put that in there, and then bees will see that as, they'll say, a colony's already been here. This worked for them. So it kind of is a lure. There's also other swarm lures out there. I know, like there's Swarm Commander. There's a couple different, other swarm attractants that you could actually put that in the box, so it kind of lures them in. I know some folks use lemongrass. I'm really not. I tend to not put out a lot of swarm traps just because it's a time thing for me. So. And when swarms are in trees and that, I've had people call me, like a neighbor farmer. He called me up and was like, he always calls me kid. He's an older gentleman. And he says, hey, kid, there's some bees over here in the fruit tree. And 9 times out of 10, I'm on a work meeting. And I'm like, all right, I'll be over as soon as I'm done with work. And then he'll call me up and say, kid, the bees left. So, and that's my issue, is that when there are swarms, I don't have the time to go get them.
Right.
And with traps, it's just a matter of time. So I tend to not throw swarm traps out.
Yeah.
So
the traps are nice because once you've got them up, even if a swarm moves in, you can let them sit for a couple of weeks, if you're not ready to bring them home yet. So.
Yeah, leave them. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? I think you've got, what other pictures do you have, Terry?
Let's see here.
Yeah,
there you go.
That right there, when you look at all of the different colors, those all came out of that Flow Super.
Really?
That was from the same exact extraction, just different frames. And every jar had a different taste.
Okay.
It was amazing. That's how, if you think of when a bee goes flying out, I think a honeybee through its lifetime, one honeybee makes a 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey throughout its life. So you figure how much, as far as bees, how many bees it took to make one of those jars. Mm-hmm. It just is amazing. And you figure all of the different flowers that they were able to go to and pull nectar from to make that jar of honey. Just is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, that is That's good stuff right there. I showed that picture to my mom, and she was just like, "You got to be kidding me."
I love honey extraction time.
Yeah, yeah. That picture there is last year, and that is the market that I go and do in Youngstown. Now, Muriel would know probably where this is at, but that's in downtown Youngstown. I know a lot of people have heard of Youngstown, Ohio. They have a flea market. It's one Saturday a month, and Youngstown Flea. I go down and that's my setup now. I've kind of tweaked my setup a little bit. I've done some 3D printing and added in a little bit more for my display, but I've got an observation hive that I take down every once in a while. And I sell the honey there, but that day when I took that observation hive that day there, it was a nice day outside. I probably spent more time talking to people about the bees than selling the honey. It drew in so many people that as a single person working a stand, it almost created too much just attention. It had people from all over. I'd have a dozen people standing around that thing asking questions, and then I'd have other people wanting to buy honey, and it's like, I was getting pulled in every direction. But yeah, that's a fantastic time though. I mean, I really enjoy going down there, and the honey, as you see in the back there, it's different colors. So I'll label it, spring honey. I'll label it fall honey. That way they know. And I'll give out samples also. If people want to try it, I open up a jar and I keep it there. That way they can try it. But it's always funny when someone wants to try the honey. I always tell them, I say, if you try it, you're going to buy it. And it's just, if they're that interested, they want to try it, they always buy it. They always buy some. So, but yeah, it's those markets. Like I said, it's just a fantastic way that you can connect with your customers. You can kind of spend time. I know, like, you could go and do some consignments. You can go to shops and stuff and sell your honey. But the markets, that's just a great way that you kind of develop that relationship. I've had people that literally once a month they come down and they'll buy a jar, and I've got those repeat customers, and they just tell me, they're like, your honey is it. So yeah, that's a fantastic time. And like you see there, I mean, I've got the banner behind there. I've got the little tabletop one with my pictures, and I still have people ask me, are you the one that do the bees? It's just hilarious.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that day talking about the bees there, couple there that was asking about the observation hive. So that's such a good times right there. Good times, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had the glass jars that are sitting there. I did uh, bourbon barrel honey. Um, I had ordered a freshly poured bourbon barrel, and I filled it up with honey, and let it soak for, oh gosh, it was a little while, several months. So it kind of picked up that bourbon flavor. And then I sold them in those glass jars, and oh my gosh, was it good? Oh my gosh.
Nice.
If you like bourbon, the bourbon barrel honey, oh man. That stuff there it's good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. What else do
That
you
was our last picture,
got? Last one?
Brian.
Yeah.
How about we go ahead and do a quick giveaway?
Sure. Yeah.
I know there's probably a few people waiting to see if we are going to do the giveaways before too long. Now, I'm not real familiar with this in StreamYard. I go down to present and then share screen, right? For the
Yep.
okay. Share screen. Um, All it says is select a tab to share. I had the same problem last time I did this.
So you could click on present and then do share screen.
Yeah.
And then you could do Chrome tab, you could do window or entire screen.
Oh, that's what I didn't do. I have to have that StreamYard. What's the address for the tool, StreamYard tool?
Let me see here.
I think it's /giveaway. That's what it is.
Yep. I'll put it
Okay.
I'll put it in the private chat.
Yeah, I got it. All I got to do is
Okay.
get the hashtag in there. Okay, let me go over here again and present, share screen, StreamYard giveaway tool, share. Okay, so that should be up if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Now go ahead and click on start collecting. Yep.
Gotcha.
There you go.
See, that's weird is it's only showing 7 entries, and I know there's more than that. But when I select draw, then it goes through, and there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we're going to try it and see what happens. Why on earth is Coturnix corner in there? I hope I don't win.
Yeah, it's
I don't need no more eggs. Coturnix corner. What is unbelievable?
That is hilarious.
I'm just going to hit draw again.
That is hilarious.
It is. Sorry about that, guys.
What
are the odds?
That was fantastic.
Yeah. Hannah Bishop.
Hannah. Good
Okay.
stuff.
All right, Hannah, you know the routine. Go ahead and email me your. Where am I? Where am I out here? I guess I'm back there now. Okay, good. Hannah, send me your shipping information. Make sure I get a good email and a good phone number. And I'm going to put my address in there right now. So Hannah is the winner of the hatching eggs. And we're going to do another drawing here in a little bit, guys, for a $50 gift certificate.
Mm.
From
hatching time. Hatching time. I actually have. I've got one of their setups. I've got their brooder.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 of their grow out cages as well. Yep. So, and I had another. I had a tote that I basically made a brooder. I had the warming light, things like that. For me, I like things easy. So, for me to have to sit there and look at the light and see, well, are the birds, are they moving away from it? Are they too hot? Are they whatever? I was just like, yeah. So I spent the money. I bought one of the hatching time ones, and I have never looked back. That darn thing has worked. I mean, it's worked fantastic. So, tell
everybody real quick, Brian, what you're doing as far as quail goes.
Yeah. So I started out, oh gosh, what would it have been? 2 years ago now. So we've gotten them through 2 seasons. I've got some Coturnix quail, and you'd think that I would have a picture of them. I'm a horrible quail owner because I don't have pictures there. But I've got 3 cages set up, so I've got kind of three groups. We keep about 10 per cage, so I've got like 8 or I keep like a 4-to-1 ratio. Roosters, hens. That way we get fertilized eggs. I got some eggs actually from my shire. I've got I've gotten eggs. I've purchased eggs all online. I got the incubators and hatched them out myself. Last year, all of the birds that I have now are basically ones that I hatched out last year. I took my own eggs, hatched them out. That way I kind of just replenished the flock. This year, we're trying something new. I got some of the jumbo Wisconsin bob whites, hatched those out. I got 50 eggs. And I'm shocked that I got the number to hatch that I did. Of the 50 eggs, I had 5 not develop. So when I candled them out at, I don't know, 7 or 8 days or whatever it was, 9 days, there were 5 that showed no signs. Now, there was 1 or 2 that developed a little bit and then they just stopped. So 5 didn't go to lockdown. Of the 45 then that went into lockdown, there was only 1 that did not hatch. So out of 50 eggs, I got 44 that I hatched out.
Nice.
It's a good percentage. And the only 1 that didn't hatch out, it was actually backwards in the egg. It pipped on the point. And when I looked at it, I thought, should I open up the darn thing and help it out? And I thought, well, let me see what it'll do. And tomorrow, if it doesn't, I'll just help it out the rest of the way. And it was dead. It probably suffocated. But, we've got those. And I'm building, let me see here. I know I have a picture of my latest contraption, but I am building more of like an aviary style. I'm building a pen that on this side over here, that side there, it's going to be an enclosed area. That way, they can get out of the elements. And then on the other end of it, I'm going to do on the bottom portion, I'm going to do hardware cloth. And then on the top of it, I'm going to do all of the aviary netting. That way, if they do take flight, they'll hit soft netting. But those bobwhites, I'm excited to get those buggers out there.
Oh, yeah, they're neat. And then they're pretty looking birds, too.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so we're going to have, the Coturnix, around 30 of them. And then I don't know, like number-wise, how many of the bobwhites we're going to keep. I know these jumbos, they said they get around 14 ounces. So they're a considerably larger bird. I'll kind of have to play it by ear. I know we're not going to be able to keep all 44 of them. Right. I know I probably will butcher some of them out, but we'll see. I mean, whether I keep 20, if they do okay, I doubt it. That space is it's 9 by 6 by 6. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up keeping about 15 or so birds in there. Yeah. So, but it'll be fun.
That'd be nice. Yeah, that'd be real nice.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that, man. I am.
Okay, guys, I'll give you another minute. Go ahead and type in if you want a Hatching Time gift certificate. It's hashtag Hatching Time, all one word. And we'll do that drawing here in a second. Is there anything else, Brian, that you wanted to touch on as far as the bees? Well, how about where can these people go to get bees if they're interested in getting started? Where can they get their first hive?
So starting out, and that is a fantastic question. If you are interested in starting out, the very first thing that I typically tell everyone to do, find your local beekeeping club. Okay. Everyone has it. I know out your way, there's Summit County Beekeepers, Muriel. They're a fantastic group. Find a local club, and through that local club, you can meet in other individuals that a lot of times they'll say, if you're interested, come on over my place. You can see what it's like. When you get that hands-on time, then you'll really know, well, is this for me or not? Okay. Now, as far as equipment and things like that, you can order stuff online. You can go to Amazon. You can go, there's plenty of companies out there like Blue Sky Bee Supply that was mentioned. There's companies that will ship stuff to you. And a lot of those companies also, they will sell what are called package bees. A package of bees is, it's a long rectangular box that has, it's 3 pounds of bees. So there's about 10,000 bees in it, and there's 1 queen. So you can buy that package and install it in your equipment, and then you've got a colony going. But typically, when you do get connected with your local club, they will also give you tips on where you can get bees from. Sometimes those club members will say, you know what, I'm kind of at my limit as far as hives. So when I do my splits, bring over your equipment and I'll give you a colony.
Mhm.
I've been at clubs and they've done that. I've done that for people also. 2 years ago when I kind of had too many,
Yeah.
one guy, he bought 2 colonies from me very, very cheap. A cousin of mine, I gave a colony to. So that's typically what I say is get yourself connected with a local club because they'll really help you out. And look at that. We've got Bruce's bees in here. What is up, Bruce? Awesome.
Okay, Muriel wants to know what kind of an incubator you use.
It is that what is it? Mantic coops or
Oh, Manicupus. Yep.
Yep. I got 2 of those. They have worked fantastic.
Right.
The temperature on them, like I've when I very first started, like I'm one that I do all of my research. When I saw those, the price was kind of right. I got other temperature and humidity sensors that I put inside of it just to kind of see if, well, the incubator was true, and it was only off like half a degree. So you basically program that to the days. You set it to whatever you want, and it basically counts down. It has an egg turner in it, so it does. I mean, it's like a one-stop shop as far as an incubator. When it gets to lockdown time, I just pull those egg turners out, and then I put a piece of fabric down. It's that like shelf liner that you get. I put that down over it. That way they have a little bit of a grippy surface so that they don't get splayed leg. But yeah, those incubators, they've worked really well for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the last of our questions. Bruce's bees. Brian, give him a shout out. Tell everybody who Bruce is.
So Bruce he is a sideline beekeeper. He is down in southeastern Alabama, Dothan, Alabama. He's been beekeeping a little bit longer than what I have. He's part of the stream team. He's one of the other guys that we do the lives on Wednesdays. Real good guy. I mean, I can't say enough about Bruce. He helps out. I mean, I can't count the number of people that he has helped out. When he's been out, traveling, he stopped at people's places, helped them out. He's had people, if you're down in his area, stop on over. He'll spend time with you, but Bruce is a really good guy. He shows everything he does. Good guy, that might be a stretch. But yeah, he's one of the stream team guys. And, with the 3 of us, I'm like the hobbyist. Bruce is at that next level because he runs 100 to 150 colonies. And then Greg is a commercial guy. So, but Bruce, he does have a lot. Bruce, and just to give a little bit of a context here as far as his honey crop, last year he harvested 9,300 pounds of honey. He had 155 or 165 5-gallon buckets of honey.
Yeah. I think you can see that on Bruce's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I thought that video where he showed a bunch.
Yep. Yeah, and if you just go on YouTube and you just type in Bruce's bees, 155 5-gallon buckets. That's
155. That is crazy. I get excited when I get a few gallons.
Yeah. I just have no idea. My goal, though, I'll tell you what, Terry, my goal this year is like a rebuilding year just from the losses that I've had.
Yep.
My goal that I'm setting for next year is I want to pull 1,000 pounds.
Really? Nice.
That's kind of like a number that I'd love to hit. I pulled 600 before, so I want to see if I can't pull 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. Last year I did all my horizontal hives. I let them have all the honey. I didn't do any harvesting last year. This year I've already harvested maybe a couple gallons from my
Oh,
frame nukes, but just enough to keep me in honey. So
yeah,
all that
yeah,
matters. You mentioned the losses that you had. Explain to people what happened this year, or this
yep,
last year and this year, as far
yeah.
as the die off.
So I'm sure everybody probably, if you go back and, well, if you just Google colony collapse, back in 06, 07, uh, it was all over the news. There were beekeepers, out in California, they'd go out to their hives and the bees just gone or they're just dead. That was a huge story. Same similar thing has happened in the last 12 months. It's happened all across the country. Um, there's uh, there's an organization out there. It's Project Apis M, where they've been doing studies, and I mean they've reported that it's, and this is just the commercial guys. So this doesn't include certain folks like Bruce, the sideliners, the hobbyists. They've said that there's been 1.2 or so million colonies lost in the last year. Um, Now there's typically every year beekeepers suffer losses. It's just the nature of beekeeping. You're going to lose some. It's just like when you keep quail. Well, they die. But in the last year, there's been unusually high losses, to the point like I know a guy that had another guy down in Ohio. He had 45 colonies. Over this last winter, he lost 44. So it's really hit hard. If folks ask what caused it, the researchers, they don't know. Up to this point, they don't know. They're kind of looking at some different things. More or less in the back of my head, what I think happened is it was a series of events that kind of all hit them. Uh, there's a guy out there. He does scientific beekeeping. It's Randy Oliver. Uh, he explained it, I think, perfectly. He said, think of it like a leaky boat. You have one problem, that's a leak. So you can manage that. Okay. You have another problem. There's another leak. You can manage that. And he said it ends up getting to the point that you have so many leaks that, and I apologize for that truck driving past there, but you get so many leaks that the ship sinks. And if you think in the last year, set aside from, uh, yeah, there you go. Do you want me to send that to him?
Yeah, did I do it wrong?
Okay. Let me see. Hey, Bruce, I'm going to send something your way. Let's see here. I'm doing this real quick. This is the multitasking that I always do.
I see you doing it all the time on the
There you
streams.
go. All right, Bruce, I just emailed you something. But I truly think it was just a series of events. You figure all of the pesticides. You've got all the different viruses that they're finding out. With the environmental factors, you've got parts of the country that, what did we have? We had hurricanes rip through, the East Coast. When that happens and it just decimates an area, it affects the nutrition. So if you have poor nutrition with the bees, they're going to be unhealthy. They're just not going to survive. We were talking to Randy Oliver. He had said that they're also finding that, similar like us, that there's like a colostrum that bees have. So if bees have poor nutrition, they're fed poorly when they're growing up. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to be unhealthy bees. And then you add in all of the other stressors, and the colonies just don't make it. So I truly think it was just that. It's a series of different events. I think I have a really good feeling about this year, though, honest. I have for about 2 months now. I just, one day I got thinking about it, and I'm just like, you know, I think it's over. I think what has happened has happened. It's just like in 06 and 07. There was a certain time frame where the colony collapse occurred and then it just stopped and everybody moved on. They never really exactly pinpointed what caused the 0607 issue. Some say it was nosema. It's an infection that the bees get. Some say it wasn't, so there wasn't like a definitive, hey, this is it, and basically what I say too now, Terry, is if somebody one day were to walk into, if I'm overworking my colonies and they walk down and say, Brian, we know what caused the death of your colonies.
Mhm.
Right now where I'm at, I'm like, would it matter? Probably wouldn't matter,
Right.
Now, if it was something related to my management, then of course it would matter. But if it was an external element that
Sure.
caused it, to me, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's just been horrible. I mean, I know there's been some national stories on it. If you CBS, I know different networks have done stories on the bee loss. If you look up Project Apis M, they've got all of the statistics that are out there. It's mind blowing when you look at those statistics and you see the number of colonies that have been lost.
Right.
Just is mind blowing.
Okay, let's go ahead and do our other drawing for hatching time. And did you get into that, Brian?
I don't know if I did or not.
It's hatching time, all lowercase, all one word.
I'm going to do my Command C. There we go. I'm in it now.
All right.
I don't want to win, though. I want one of your viewers to win.
We do this every week, so.
I'm going to text Bruce.
Okay, yeah, I'm just giving a few people some time to comment hatching time. Real quick, for those of you guys who are wondering what's coming up as far as Coturnix Corner goes, next week, or not next week, this Sunday and the following Tuesday, Maury Straubel is coming down to Florida, and we are going to be going live from my apiary on both Sunday morning for the morning musings, and we're going to be going live on Tuesday for the regular live stream. Negro Kitty's just joined us. Glad she could join us today. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and do another real quick drawing. That is what you want to type in if you want to be into this drawing for the Hatching Time gift certificate. Negro Kitty, we already did the Gopher Ridge giveaway. Right now, we're doing the Hatching Time. All right, let me get over here and make sure I got this done right. All right, we are going to start collecting comments, see what we got here. See, that's weird. I only see it's showing 13. You'd think that there was more than that. And the draw.
Who's going to win? Who's going to win?
Sean, oh, my Shepherd Crew.
Awesome. Good stuff.
I love this tool. I've never used it before. I just do the drawing, or I just select whoever.
Yeah.
That is nice.
That tool there it's so super handy. If you do multiple drawings, you can do a draw again where it will remove the person,
Right.
It's super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use it all the time. We used to do
that's where I got the idea from watching your live streams. I've seen you do it. So
we used to use a tool. It was called the Wheel of Names, and we would basically, we would fish through comments and put the names on this wheel, and you click spin. But it was just so much work. I mean, when we had some of our larger drawings, we'd have, oh my gosh,
hundreds.
We would. I mean, we'd have 200-300 entries.
Yeah.
And, I would literally sit there for an hour or so typing out names on this little wheel. And I'm
No,
just
thank
like,
you.
no. So anymore, we tell people when we're going to do a drawing, you got to be present. You know, if you're not in the live, well, you're not going to get a chance to win. So we've done some pretty amazing giveaways. We've had like Larabie's, their vaporizers. Rob has given away a couple.
They're like almost
bee
$500,
suits.
aren't they?
Yeah. We've given away extractors. We've had some pretty big, $1,000 giveaways.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's not often. So don't think like every week on a Wednesday you're gonna have a chance to win an extractor or something like that. But
yeah, right.
We've got, we're lucky. The three of us are lucky in that we have a lot of people that support us. So, they just I always tell people the beekeeping community is such a fantastic group of people that really, if you look at it, they all support each other.
Yep. No, I agree. My Shepherd Crew, my email address is on the screen. Go ahead and send me your shipping information. Make sure I get a good email for you, because that's how they're going to send it to you from Hatching Pen. So,
lady in Hawaii. Look
go
at
feed
that.
the pigs. Nice.
Mahalo. That's awesome. I've been to Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah. The wife and I have been to Maui, and we've been to the Big Island. So
when I left Michigan 44 years ago, originally I bought a motorcycle. Originally I was going to go to California and then on to Hawaii. And I ended up having a buddy of mine that was already living down here in Florida. So I said, I'll just go to Florida. Been here ever since.
And there you are. Yeah.
Yep. I'm probably lucky I didn't get stranded out on the island in the middle of the Pacific, though. You know what I mean? Because all I had back then was a motorcycle.
Yeah. Hawaii. Hawaii it's beautiful to visit. But living out there, I don't know how they live out there.
Yeah.
Look at this joker.
Too isolated for me. I see that.
Look at this joker.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, welcome to the channel, Bruce.
Huh?
No, you sound fine.
Okay. Good.
Welcome to the live stream, Bruce. I'm glad you popped in.
Got you for a few minutes. How are things going?
Good.
Yeah.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Well, my name is Bruce Jenny. I live down here in Southeast Alabama. I heard Brian telling you a little bit earlier. I am a sideliner. I have right now I probably got about 130, 120, 130, maybe, I don't even know. It's over 100, between 1 and 150 colonies I run. And my main objective is producing honey. I really enjoy the honey production side of things. Of course, it's all fun, the honey and the splitting bees at all. I just love it all. Do have a YouTube channel, Bruce's Bees, and I do work full time as well. So I'm a busy guy.
Right. And your channel's Bruce's Bees, right, on YouTube?
That's right. Yeah, it's just all.
I think I've seen every one of your videos.
Oh,
I binge watch.
It's all one word, lowercase, Bruce's Bees. I appreciate you watching it. It's humbling to know that anybody wants to watch it, much less the folks that do. It's just kind of neat to see that, and it becomes addicting. And so,
Bruce, just to let everyone know, Bruce is an analytics type of guy. Every time we finish up with a live stream, Bruce and I are looking at the numbers, like, okay, who watched and who. So Bruce is a numbers guy.
Well, I'm analytics with YouTube. I'm not real analytical on anything else, but with YouTube, I am. Just trying to grow it and see, what's, just trying to grow it and see what I can do. So I try to see how it grows, and I'm way too obsessed with it. I should just post stuff and just let it roll. But I'm always trying to see what I can do better.
Yeah.
How did those new queens you just installed go?
Oh, they're doing good. I've got honey's boxes on some of them. There's always a few that don't make it, but that's just part of it. But overall, they're doing real well. I love those queens, the Hawaiian queens from Zach at Hives from Apiaries out in Hawaii. They're just gentle and they're strong. They grow, they grow really big and they do really good. They are Italian Cordovan type bees, though. So, they're going to grow really fast, and they don't breed way back in the wintertime down here. So you got to be ready for that. But they're super gentle, super nice bees. I like the yellow bees. They're really pretty to look at, and they're just calm for the most part. I'm happy with them. I got my first ones last year from him, and got some more this year. So, yeah, I'm pleased with them.
Good deal. Yeah, I was just telling Brian earlier, I'm taking this year to kind of practice creating my own queens. I came out of winter with 2 hives, and I'm up over 14 queen right hives now, all from either walkaway splits or moving queen cells over and whatnot. So next year we're going to try grafting, see how that goes.
Yeah, I need to get out. I need to get out there and try to graft. Every time I want to do it, it's something kind of play, or I've got to actually do something that's critical with the other bees, and I just haven't had much of a chance to do it. But I do want to pick a hive or two that's got a really nice queen in it and just see what I can do. Last year I did some grafting, had good success with it when I did everything right. And this year I want to try it again. Every time I want to do it, it's just hard because there's a window of time with grafting. You have to work on a pretty tight schedule, and so it's just being able to do that and get everything set up.
My problem is my eyes. I don't know if I could see good enough to get a larvae out of there with a tool.
You can get the they got a magnifying glass and type things you can wear to try. A lot of people use those.
Okay.
With my
Terry,
glasses,
what I'm gonna try, because I'm gonna try and get into some queen rearing also next year. Probably won't happen this year just with my numbers, but what I'm gonna try, at least this is my plan, is I'm gonna use what's called a cloak board.
Yep.
And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all capped out frames. And then when I shut off that cloak board, when I close it up, I'm going to drop a frame in there that has eggs and larvae.
Yep.
So they'll only have that one frame, and they'll basically look at it like, we don't have a queen. Right. Let's build out cells. So they've got to be strong. But that's what I'm going to try first. As far as those that don't know, grafting deals with, you have to take a certain aged larvae and you have to see them. And for the folks that wear these, sometimes that's an issue. And you basically raise your own queens. I'm going to try and raise queens without grafting. Now, if it doesn't really work out and I have to go the road of grafting, I do have grafting tools and I've got the bars and everything in case I have to go that route. But next year will probably be the year when I go towards messing around with queens.
Right. Cool.
So I've got the incubators.
There you go.
Terry, how long you been doing this?
Doing what?
How long you been doing the bees? Yes, sir.
This is my 3rd year.
Okay.
Fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It's funny. My dad, he's raised bees all his life, and he'd been trying to get me into keeping bees, but I was always scared to death of them. I was always afraid. I think it's, you watch these videos or the news and stuff, and killer bees are moving in, and so I was always afraid of them. But when my father passed away, he had sent me a whole bunch of beekeeping books and stuff, and I started reading up on it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. So,
how far down into Florida are you?
Fort Myers.
Okay.
About 150 miles south of Tampa.
Okay. Yeah, I know Fort Myers. My father, before he passed away, he lived in Fort Myers, so we would go down and visit. And we'd go out to Sanibel Island and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
just down the road from me.
Yeah. Good stuff. If you're ever up, do you ever cruise through Southeast Alabama?
Oh yeah. I spent a lot of years behind the wheel of a big truck, so I've been pretty much all over this country.
Yeah.
I'd love to get up by Bruce and check out his operation.
One thing that you'll now see, you just you planted a seed there.
I'd like to extend an invitation.
What's going to happen now, Terry, is you're going to find yourself one day, it's going to be 90 degrees and you're going to be with Bruce doing splits and you're going to be thinking, how the heck did I talk myself into this?
90 degrees, take it up a few notches. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
yeah. It's,
I've worked my bees. I've been out there when the feels like temp was well over 100. And it's hot. I had a full Guardian suit. I don't even wear that thing anymore. It's so heavy and so hot.
Yeah.
I just wear a jacket now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's why I try and work mine. And I don't, for those that are new, I don't suggest this. I tell people be comfortable, but I try and work mine in shorts. I'll still put on my jacket, but I wear shorts because you're cool. That's just me, you know. If I can get away with it, I do it. There's times, my legs get stung, but I'm cool and I'm not sweating as bad.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So,
all right, we got anything else that we want to cover real quick before we pull the plug on this one? I see it's going on 9 o'clock. I hate to keep you all night here, Brian.
No, you know, if anybody is interested in beekeeping, like I said, just get in touch with some local groups. You can also look us up. You know, we do lives every Wednesday at 8 p.m. It's either on Bruce's channel, my channel, or Greg's at Nature's Image Farm. We typically, every week when we get on the lives, people ask us questions. We try and have a topic, but that doesn't always work, you know, but we try and field questions from people. So if you start out and you want to jump in and ask, you know, we get some guests on there. Also, we try and have guests, for, you know, those that are out there working in the industry, and then some others. We try and bring in just, you know, everyday beekeepers that we can kind of just connect the community. But yeah, it's a fantastic time. So.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for checking in tonight. I really appreciate it. I know we're going to get a lot on the replays. Most of my normal live streams are Sunday morning, but we do the Tuesday ones, you know, every so often. So that's probably why we didn't have a whole ton of people in here tonight. But again, so thank you very much, you know, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, I'm happy to join in. Just let me know.
Sure. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
So thanks for joining us, Bruce. Thanks for joining us, Brian. We're going to pull the plug on this one, and I'm going to go eat my dinner. It's getting late.
All right, guys.
Bruce, I'll see you tomorrow, buddy.
All right, man. We'll see you.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Good stuff. Terry, I'll see you.
Thanks, Brian.